The World Food Summit in 1996 defined food security as existing when all people in all places at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active life. Today, we will think about the impact of hunger and malnutrition in our society, the roles leaders and organizations should play, and the compassionate approach to ensure that practitioners are being mindful about this growing epidemic.
I'm very happy to introduce Clare Fox, who is the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Food Council. Please help me in welcoming Clare Fox.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? It's such an honor to be here. I'm very excited. My task today is to sort of set the tone and to provide a context for the conversation that we'll have throughout the day. And I want to invite us into a conversation about the intersection of food and social change, or food and empowerment. Empowerment is a key part of social change, so I see them as all connected. So, you know, as we all know, and as you're studying in your programs, I'm sure we are facing so many pressing social, economic, environmental, and racial justice issues in this society. So why would we talk about food? What does food have to do with that? What I love about food is that it's a vehicle for inherent connection. It inherently connects us to the earth, which sustains us, and it connects us to each other through a shared experience. When we break bread together, that is a universal and ancestral ritual that every one of us experiences, and all of our ancestors have across time and history. Before we talk about some solutions, I want to set the context for what we're up against and what the challenges are, and how within our food systems we have undermined our health, our environment, our economy, and even some of our approaches to social change. 15 million is the number of Californians who either have diabetes or prediabetes. That's 55% of all adults in California. That is a staggering number. When I first heard this, it blew me away. And the study discusses that if we don't do something very soon, if we don't have a massive intervention, that 30% of those who have prediabetes will develop type 2 diabetes in the next 5 years. That's a cost to all of us. The total estimated cost of diabetes to the state is $27 billion, and that would be including direct medical care and indirect costs associated with the disease. So who is most at risk? Who are we talking about? This same study found that young people and people of color are most at risk for type 2 diabetes. And, you know, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with type 2 diabetes in particular, it's a pretty serious thing if it goes untreated. In particular, it can lead to blindness, to liver and kidney failure, amputation, premature death. It's really a tough disease. What led to this? How do we get to this? Well, the researchers said that, you know, our communities have been designed for disease. They are designed in a way that do not facilitate physical activity, and our communities are inundated with unhealthy foods, and in particular, the particular culprit that they named is sugar-sweetened beverages, soda, which is the #1 source of sugar in the American diet. But not all communities are designed the same, and that's why we see these gross disparities along race and class. 12 years. 12 years is the difference in life expectancy between a person who's born in Watts versus a person who's born in Bel Air. And of course, this is a result of long-standing racial and economic inequities that are across our entire society, not unique to Los Angeles in any way. Nationally, we see that predominantly white neighborhoods have 3 times as many supermarkets as predominantly Black neighborhoods, and nearly twice as many as Latino neighborhoods. So when we talk about the rise of type 2 diabetes, we really can't help but see this as a racial justice issue. And where you live should not determine how long you live or the quality of your life. 1.5 million is the number of people in Los Angeles County who face food insecurity. What are we talking about when we say food insecurity or food security? In real life terms, what are we talking about? We're talking about parents skipping meals so that they can feed their kids, right? Or we're talking about kids who are really getting their only real meal of the day at school. 23% is the percentage of food workers that use food stamps, and that compares to 11% of the general population. That's pretty crazy, right? So the people who are growing food for us, distributing it, packing it, shipping it, serving it to us at restaurants, have a greater incidence of needing food stamps. So are we making sure that those that feed us, those food workers and their families, are not going home with empty pockets and hungry bellies? So as you can see, the issues are many. The challenges are many and they're complex. And then to make matters even more complicated, the food system itself is touched by a wide array of different government departments and regulatory agencies. You think about the Department of Agriculture is setting policy for farmers. And then you have the department or an agency that's focused on economic development, trying to promote culinary adventures for tourists or food businesses. The Department of Public Health is looking at health outcomes, and they're also regulating restaurants. The school district buying food and serving it to youth, many of them low income. So each of them in their own ways coming up with solutions to the problems that they see, but not very many of them in communication with each other or coordinating their efforts. I like to think of our work as an innovation in democracy because we're busting through silos and creating new spaces of civic engagement where communities can work collaboratively together in new ways for sustainability and equity. And so what do we do exactly? Well, we convene and activate food leaders, we conduct research and provide policy recommendations, and we facilitate catalytic projects and programs that expand access to healthy food. So what have we been able to accomplish with this collective impact? Well, one of the most effective ways to change the food system on a very large scale is to change the way that large public institutions spend their food dollars. You could sort of think of this as voting with your fork, which we do all the time. If you're engaged in this work and you're thinking about what you're putting in your body, every time we go to the grocery store or the farmer's market, we're expressing our values, right, through our food purchases and through what we put in our body. Well, imagine if school districts, cities, universities, hospitals, large institutions came together and demanded good food. Their collective impact would literally redirect billions of dollars to sustainable, fair suppliers, and that would have ripple effects for the entire system and for the entire economy. This is the premise of the Good Food Purchasing Policy, which is an initiative that the Food Policy Council launched in 2012. It creates a transparent supply chain from farm to fork, and it provides clear standards to help institutions measure and make shifts in their food purchases in line with 5 key values. And here they are: local economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and nutrition. So what we're doing is we're helping organizations or institutions, I should say, like the City of Los Angeles and Los Angeles Unified School District know that their dollars, which are our dollars, public dollars, are going to companies that are supporting local economies, that are treating their workers' rights, raising animals humanely, protecting our environmental resources, and of course, expanding access to healthy food. In 2012, the City of LA adopted this policy, and then shortly thereafter, LA Unified School District, the second largest school district in the country, also adopted it. So I want to tell you a little bit about what that has done, what some of the impact has been. The school district has really used the Good Food Purchasing Policy as a roadmap for making changes in the way that they procure food. Since 2012, LA Unified School District has redirected $12 million in produce purchases to local growers, and its suppliers have therefore created over 150 new well-paying jobs in LA County. So now I'd like to talk about, and sort of in brief, some of the other policy solutions that have come forward, some of the other wins to get you thinking about what's possible. Some of you may be familiar with the story of Ron Finley. He was cited by the City of LA for growing food in the parkway, which is that space of land between the sidewalk and the street. In a dense urban environment, for folks who want to grow food, you grow it where you can, and you may not have access to land. It was a long process, so I'm giving you the short version here, but City Council did end up taking action and updating the municipal code, so now edible gardens are allowed in parkways. So another policy that we've been working on for the last couple of years that passed 3 days ago is the Urban Agriculture Incentive Zone policy. LA County Board of Supervisors just passed this, and what it would do is it provides a tax incentive to property owners of vacant lots to open up their land and make it available for urban farms and community gardens. Yeah, it's great. So it's thanks to the work of Ron and all of the diligent urban farmers out there who have had to deal with a lot of frustration for so many years that we're able to finally get some momentum and think about how do we creatively repurpose vacant lots, for example, which are a true drain on community life, particularly in low-income communities, into a greater community serving purpose. There was an LA Times editorial that said, Los Angeles does love its farmers markets, but not all Angelinos can use them. Of the approximately 60 certified markets in LA, only half of them accept the modern version of food stamps, electronic benefits transfer cards, EBT cards. There's something terribly wrong when Jack in the Box and corner liquor stores eagerly accept EBT, but a farmer's market does not. And we wholeheartedly agree. This is something that LA Food Policy Council and our partners have been working on. We have a strategy to reach 100% universal EBT access at all farmers markets in the city of LA. We're doing on-the-ground outreach to farmers market managers, partnering with USDA to do an EBT sign-up day next month. And there's a policy that's been introduced by the city council looking at how can we require farmers markets. I mean, it's great if we touch all the farmers markets that exist today, but what about future farmers markets? It would be great to institutionalize that so that any farmers market that wants to come into the city of LA is welcome to do so as long as they make it accessible to everybody regardless of income. We are also engaged in a fight for citywide legalization of street food vending. It's actually illegal to vend on city sidewalks in the city of LA, even though you always see, fresh fruit carts or taco stands, elotes. We love street food culture in LA, but unfortunately the law does not love street vendors, and it's a real issue that we see entrepreneurs, hardworking entrepreneurs, being criminalized every day. Their carts are confiscated, they're given egregious fines, and so it's our hope that a permit system will bring vendors out of the shadows. The city of LA estimates that there's 50,000 sidewalk vendors in the city, and we want to support these small businesses. They're a vital part of our local food economy, and of course, it's a great way to bring healthy food in an easy way into communities. We also work with mom and pop corner stores and neighborhood markets that are residing in low-income communities, many of them themselves low income, and help them, empower them to bring fresh fruits and vegetables and other healthy food into the area. And then lastly, I will just talk a little bit about food waste. We formed a food waste working group last year. They're focused on eliminating the 1 million tons of food that is sent to LA County, to LA landfills every year through policy strategies for recovering food. If the food is still edible, it should be going to hunger relief sites, or we should be converting it into livestock feed, energy, compost, and of course supporting high environmental, social, worker standards within the waste industry. So at this point you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of information. There's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of good work that's being done. What am I supposed to do and what is my role in all of this? And so I want to just close with some thoughts for how you might see yourself as a part of this story. As I said, food touches all of us, so you're all critical stakeholders in making these changes. Obviously, the most simple way we've already talked about, it's voting with your fork. As a consumer, you have the ability to express what you believe in. You can buy from companies that have environmental practices, but you might also want to check out how they treat their workers or how their suppliers treat their workers. That's harder to find out, but it's good to ask. And the more you ask, the more you're communicating the importance of that. And to also support institutions that are aligned with your values. I also think people underestimate your voice in the policy process. I've seen this time and again. Policy was not created to be inclusive, and that's on purpose. It was not designed to be participatory. And your letters to your elected official, showing up, making public comment at City Council, at LA County Board of Supervisors, it really does make a difference. They do pay attention, so don't underestimate that. And then most importantly, I hope you find your place to grow as an advocate for change. I see the entire project of the LA Food Policy Council as an experiment in how you get more people activated as leaders and as change makers, engaging with policy, creating new pathways of participation, interrupting the old paradigm. My favorite quote is by Albert Einstein. He said, "The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that we were at when we created them." So I'm really interested in how we can elevate and shift our level of thinking through a collaborative, creative, and democratic process so that new solutions can emerge. And I hope that you will join me in that endeavor. Thank you.